Wow, the elections have came, the elections have gone. Now, what's next? What's the next phase of what we're doing? Where do we go from here? Today is June 16th, 2022. It's early morning and it's Waking Up California with Diego Martinez. And I want to thank everybody who's joining us on KPSF DB Radio, satellite radio, where you can get all your local news, all your local politics, day and night on the internet on KPSF DB Radio. For those of you guys who are joining me on Facebook or Instagram, we are only on one page on Facebook today. We are no longer transmitting off the governor's pages. We are just off Diego Martinez Waking Up California show. We're going to keep doing this show just to advise everybody of what's going on locally and internationally, politics that are coming up today. We have a lot of stuff going on that is daily changing. We have a lot of stuff out there right now that we're not aware of. Midterms elections are over. Top two, 29 days before the elections get their final results. Unfortunately, we are not going to be in the top two, but John Duarte is. So if you guys are in District 13, it's time to get behind John Duarte, District 13 for Congress, farmer, businessman, outstanding person, a gentleman in all aspects when it came to campaigning against John. John's a good guy. So if you guys are out there, District 13, if you guys voted for me, please turn your votes for me to John Duarte for Congress in District 13. Local news, let's talk a little bit about what's going on. SB 866 just took a hit for the better or the worse, depending which way you want to look at it. SB 866 talks about a 12-year-old minor who has the right to make medical decisions without parents' knowledge. What that does, though, is it changes everything over to where a child now can make medical decisions whether or not he or she wants to have a vaccination. At that point, you have a bigger situation on that where Scott Wiener, who actually is the founder, the writer of the bill, is actually he actually folded on the fact that from now on, they want to move the age limit up. They want to move the age limit up to the age of 15. Sorry, guys, I'm reading a little note here. Took my attention away from you guys. Sorry about that. So it took the age from 12 to 15 now. Does that make a difference? Well, actually, no, it doesn't to me. 12, 15 years old, they still, at a 15-year-old, a kid does not have the brain capacity or the knowledge or the ability to actually make a medical decision. How do you guys feel about that? SB 866 moved from 12 to 15 years old. How do we feel about where that's headed? How do we feel if that's right or wrong? Because now a 15-year-old would have the right to make their medical decision without a parent's knowledge. It's a little bit better than 12 because they're maybe a little bit more mature, but it's not at the same fact because they're still a 15-year-old minor, still living at home with parents. I don't believe that any child should be able to make a medical decision without their parents' acknowledgement or knowledge of what's going on. So we are looking at all this, excuse me guys, we are looking at all this. We are looking at all this in a different way. What is considered a minor? Where does parental rights end and where do they begin? Who is a legal adult? Now, are you a legal adult just for your medical purposes? Or are you a legal adult where you can actually pay your own rent, get out of the house, your parents not be responsible for what you're doing? That is what we're battling here because that's where we're going to be headed. If we allow bills like SB 866 to put an age limit of 15, 16, when a minor is still at home, will that destroy our core value, our family values? Will that take that away from us? No, unless a 15 is now legally an adult. I agree. How do we battle this? We have got to get down to the Capitol. We have got to write letters to our assemblymen. We have got to write letters to our state senators and let them know, no, on SB 866, it doesn't matter. There should be no way that this bill passes. The bill should be that a parent has the right to give or have their child get a vaccination if the parent sees fit. Not that the child needs to be able to go and get a vaccination at the age of 15, 12, 11, 10, 9. It doesn't matter. A child should not be able to make any medical decisions without an adult parent present. Remember that. It's wrong. Even some adults are unable to make educated decisions. That is true. So when we look at this, and we got to remember this, right? We are allowing our kids to make adult decisions. But if your kid misses school, the parent has to go to court and put their face up in their job, and they go to jail, not the child. Yet you're telling a child that making a medical decision is more important than making a school choice decision about going to school, about going to class and educating themselves. We have got to start stopping these laws from coming. It is insane that age laws have been 16 can get a job and drive, 18 join the army, but can't own a gun when the military hands it, can also vote and live on their own, but can't drink legally. So when we look at all these laws, and that's a perfect point, at 16 you could drive, but at 15 you can make medical decisions. If you guys go back a few years, remember when a child used to be able to go into a doctor's office, into a hospital, into anywhere, and not have to have a parent with them when they went back to talk to the doctors? Do you guys remember when that happened? Well, what happened there, it led to this, to what we have right now. So we have to be careful what laws we allow to go into effect now, because what are they going to change in 5, 10 years, 6 years down the road? What kind of laws are going to keep changing as we keep going here? That is what we have got to look. No, then a 15-year-old can tell teachers no homework, all in the name of mental health. We have a lot of issues that we're allowing our children to be exposed to, and we're putting a lot of pressure on children to make adult decisions. So why are we adults? Why are we their parents? Why are these kids still living with us? Why are we still financially responsible for these kids all the time if they're adults, if they can make adult decisions? This is where we have to draw the line, a hard line, and stop what is going on in our children's lives and say, no, we are adults. We are the parents. Look at what happened. Look at society. If you go back into the 80s, I know, and you were a child in the 80s, it was yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Further back than that, right? It was even worse. It used to be where your mom, your grandmother, whoever was with you, gave you a in the butt and nobody said anything because you were expected to actually be able to be a child and act a certain way in public. Well, as time has gone and we have let legislation and our laws break down, our parents' rights have been taken away, right? At one point, it's no more a spanking in the butt, it's put them on timeout. So you're gonna sit a kid in a corner that just did bad and that's gonna fix the problem? So every time they do something bad, they know there are no consequences. I was at an event one time in my speech, I actually made the comment, do we remember when we were younger, a lot of you guys out there that are listeners remember this, and we used to say, our moms used to say something, wait till your dad gets home. And we used to be scared of when dad got home because we were gonna get a butt whooping. Now it's a joke, wait till your dad gets home, great, what's that gonna do? Put me in the corner too? He can't tell me what to do. Dad can't tell me nothing. That's the problem with our society, and that's the problem with what has happened. But our lawmakers have caused this to happen, right? It is sad that a 16-year-old today can actually stand up to his dad or mom, hit him, and the parent goes to jail, not the child. Because our society has allowed that to happen, where schools and their counselors don't mean nothing. Not going to class, not doing anything means you might not get a diploma from that school, but it really doesn't mean anything else. It doesn't mean that you're grounded. It doesn't mean that you're actually after school detention. It doesn't mean that you can't do this, that you can't do that. The worst part is when parents will actually take the side of the child and not the counselors or the schools. Why? Because we as parents don't want to admit that we have done something wrong with our kids, when the reality is the whole society's been wrong and we're just part of it and we're allowing it to continue. I know a family that's struggling because one of their children is getting kicked out of the regular schools. But it's funny because when you hear something, I graduated from continuation school, night school. I was actually having a job and I was 20 credits behind, so I had to go to night school to graduate while I still had a job during the daytime. And I remember people talking about continuation schools at the time. A lot of you guys remember those. Oh, all the bad kids go there. The kids that are doing drugs, the kids that are fighting, the kids that are not obeying, the kids that are just the worst kids, the kids that you're like, hey, I don't want my kid around that kid because I don't want my kid to get that image. Remember those kids? We all were. You know what? I remember I went to continuation school. It is funny when you tell a parent right now, your child needs to go to continuation school. Well, why? My child is that is your child. The problem is that society has allowed us and took us back from being a parent so bad that we don't realize when our kids are going back down a bad alleyway to pull them back because we're not allowed, because we find every excuse. And guys, watch this. If you come from a divorced family, if mom is no longer in the picture, dad's no longer in the picture, if you're poor, if you're struggling, if you don't live in the greatest neighborhood, that's all okay today, right? That's all okay. That means that you are allowed, because that's what critical race theory is telling you, that you're allowed to misbehave. You're allowed not to do this, right? Well, we're teaching our kids that. We're also teaching our kids that it's okay and the parents have no rights, that our kids have a right. The kids have the right to behave. The kids have the right to do as their parents tell them. We have taken that right away from the parents and we have given all the authorities to kids, to minors. And when an adult does something, the parent goes to jail. Where did all that come from? Where did we allow this road to lead us? We as adults, now more than ever, need to bring God back into our homes. Need to bring structure back to our homes and not worry about what government's saying. This is one of those topics that we should have taken care of a long time ago when they said that your child can go to a doctor, have a pregnancy test without the parent knowing. Now it's getting to the point where they can have an abortion, a sex change, a vaccination, or anything else. Laws like SB 866 should never get this close to waiting for votes to pass. These laws should have never even came in the forefront of anybody who has any dignity or challenges in their lives that thinks that, hey, this is not what we want to do. This isn't the kind of people that we want to lead us. Yet we keep putting these people back in office. Teachers are literally telling students to challenge their parents. I agree 100% on that comment right there. Teachers are challenging kids. They're saying kids need a challenge because they expand their mind. No, they don't. That's being rude, disrespectful to the person who's putting food on the table. The one or two parents are struggling every day to feed their kids, to put clothes on their back, to make sure their kids can go to school, make sure their kids have everything that they need at home, yet the kids are disrespecting the parents, and it's okay, and our society seems to be open with it. We have got to narrow that down. We have got to re-rein our kids in, and we have got to start disciplining our child the way it needs. It's not about child abuse, but a spanking in the butt's not a bad thing. The parent telling the child, you sit there and you wait, and the child actually sits there and waits. That's not a bad thing. That's called a child with respect, with manners, who respects adults. We wonder why our society has gone so bad when it comes to law and order and crime, because our children don't even respect their parents. They don't respect their teachers. How are they supposed to respect law enforcement? How are they supposed to respect anybody with authority these days? They don't. Why? Because it's not being taught at home anymore. Look back at the generations. Why? Because people like Scott Winger, who do stupid bills like SB 866, yes, he folded under pressure. He caved just a little bit. He wants the age now. He's okay with moving the age from 12 to 15. Scott, ban the bill. Destroy it. It's not a good bill. It's not a good bill for anybody. It's not a good bill for the kids. It's not a good bill for the parents. We, as adults, as free Americans, have the right to make any decisions that we want to do when it comes to our bodies. We have the right for medical freedom. We have the right to do the same for our family. It is not right, and I don't know why. Some of you aren't vaccinated. I don't even care. If you're vaccinated, great. If you're not, congratulations. It's not my business what your medical preference is. If you're not vaccinated, I'm sure you have your rights on why you're not vaccinated, and you probably want to implement those to your kids. Whether it's religion freedom, whatever it might be. But you don't want to see your kid outstep where you're at, and the government says it's okay. So what do you do if you're a parent and you're not vaccinated and your child goes and gets vaccinated? See, they're making it where you have to be vaccinated to play sports. They're making it to you have to be vaccinated to go to school, to enter here, to go there. So it's almost putting peer pressure on those kids to actually go get vaccinated so they can actually do some of that stuff. That's where we're having a problem. And that's why I have a problem with SB 866. I don't think that any child should have the right or the authority or the power to be able to go into a clinic, a doctor's office, anything that's medical that concerns their bodies that a parent does not know about or isn't aware of. This is where Planned Parenthood kind of comes in, right? It should be Planned Preventhood, not we'll help you with this after you get pregnant. But because a child has this liberty, this freedom, the parent never even knows what's going on. Those are the things that we need to stop. And we need to be aware of some of the laws, like SB 866, that is even changing ages now to try to make it better. We have got to narrow this down, call our assembly people, and say, no, we cannot do this. We cannot allow our children to be able to make medical decisions. And we have got to take some of this control and some of this power back to the actual parent, not the child. Max is a great kid. Max is out there today again on SB 866 at the Capitol. Max is a young man who's actually out there, boots on the ground every week, fighting legislation. I'm excited about Max's future, and I hope Max finds his way into legislation, because this kid has dedicated the last 3 years that I've known him to legislation, to knowing what's going on in the Capitol. And not only is he involved, he's there. He has actually been able to talk in the Senate. He's been able to talk in the Assembly. He's actually learning what government does and how it affects. This kid is amazing, and down the road, I am sure that we're going to see great things coming out of Max. Max is going to be a great player and actually our future for our children and ourselves. Unfortunately, so many parents are trying to be a friend to their child, put you on the same level. Not okay. Calabunga, I agree with you. One of the worst things is when I hear, "Oh, me and my kids are friends. Oh, we're going out, we're hanging out." I know one of the worst things that I ever heard was, "I'm friends with all my kids as friends." You're an adult. You shouldn't be friends with kids. You're an adult. You should actually be an adult. Forget about being their friends. You're not their friends. Your kids are not your friends. They're actually your kids for a reason. You're the adult. You're the one who actually supposed to put the regulations and the rules down on what's going on. These shows are going to be a little shorter these days. They're about 35 minutes long, so I have to stop, take a quick commercial on KPSF DB Radio for a minute, and we'll be right back. To everybody who's tuning in to Waking Up California with Diego Martinez, political overview of what is going on. When we get back, we're going to talk about some local groups and some local things that are going on before we have to get off the air. We have about another 10 minutes. Guys, I'll be back in a minute on KPSF DB Radio, satellite radio for your enjoyment. So for those of you guys who are watching us on social media right now, if you have any questions, keep putting your comments down on the bottom. We're actually enjoying reading the comments. We're talking a lot about the comments of what's going on at this moment. We review the comments. We make sure everything's going in its place. If you guys have anything to add to SB 866, right now would be the time, because we're going to move off that subject to a little bit of what's going on in our force in local communities right now, especially Tuolumne County. So give me a few minutes and a few seconds here, and we'll be back here in about 30 seconds. Just a little bit longer, and we're coming right back on the air. Thank you guys all for joining me on your social media networks. Like I said, we're still going to go down through Parler, Gap, and all these other social media networks, but we're down to one Facebook page and our Instagram. If you're on Facebook and you're watching us through the other ones, here's where we're at. Are you planning on future runs for political, or are you done with that, just focusing on your job and your podcast? You know what? I'll talk about that as soon as we come back on the air. How's that? Give me a second, guys, because here we go. Welcome back to KPSF DB Radio with Diego Martinez and Waking Up California every Thursday morning. Our show went from an hour to 30 minutes for right now while we get what we're going to do. Quick question during the break. Are you planning on future runs for political, or are you done with that and just focusing on your job and your podcast? Well, that's a very interesting question. At this moment, we are actually taking a little time off from politics. We're taking our step back to see if we are going to run or not again. We are looking at our options. We are looking at basically a break till July 1st, where we're actually going to sit down with the campaign and discuss if there is a future endeavor or not, and which way we want to go with everything. Right now, what I'm doing is supporting John Duarte on District 13 to be able to get him into office, because his opponent, Adam Gray, is no vote Gray, and it is a shame that Adam Gray could actually be our representative for District 13, who cannot even show up to vote on some of these important costs. And that's what we're talking about right now. SB 866. If Adam Gray was in Congress, if this was a Congress deal, he probably wouldn't show up and vote, which we need somebody to show up and vote. So at this moment, I'm standing behind John Duarte, District 13 Congress, and I'm going to help in any way that he needs me to help to make sure that he can win this election. Again, if you voted for me, the 3% of the people that voted for me, please turn the vote from Diego Martinez to John Duarte for District 13. We really need a businessman. We need different blood in Congress. John Duarte should be the right guy for the job in District 13. He has earned it, and let's help him get there. As far as my future goes, it's up in the air right now. We're taking the rest of June off. We're going to actually reevaluate everything, go back to the boardroom, go back and take a look at what's going on, and figure out where we're going to be at. The podcast will keep going on every Thursday morning with Waking Up California, and we're going to talk about some local issues that I want to kind of touch bases right now, especially if you're from Neil Gamas, who actually sent me a instant message. He talked about forest management, thinning out the forest, and local agencies needing more resources, more funding to be able to prevent wildfires from spreading and damaging our homes. Neil, you are 100% correct. I have talked about it when I was on the campaign trail, but it's a subject that nobody really ever talks about. People say, thin the forest. Well, how do you do that? Where's the resources coming from? Do our local agencies actually have enough money to actually be able to support and actually be able to sit there and do an efficient job at thinning out the forest to prevent wildfires from happening? The answer is no, not at this moment. Our local agencies do not have the funding available to staff correctly to be able to actually go out and thin out our forest. We have talked about forest management, but what does that really look like? It's not like Gavin Newsom has said. It's not about sweeping up just a few leaves. It's actually about going in there and thinning out the forest, cutting down some of the trees. Old lumber needs to come down. Dry lumber needs to come down. The one that's on the ground is still worth something, needs to be pulled out of the forest and actually sold. We actually need to bring the lumber industry. We need to deregulate California, bring the lumber industry back into California to be able to provide that. In a federal level, we know that 94% of the forest land belongs to the federal government. The federal government needs to get involved in the same kind of program, which will override California's laws and allow trimming, forest, lumbering, logging companies into the national forest where they can thin out the national forest and actually sell the lumber, which will pay for the cost of everything that's happening there. So we can actually maintain and keep up our portions of the lumber industry by simply just thinning down our forest, by letting lumber companies come back, letting logging go back, let them pay us for the lumber, which then we could return that money, that funding that we get from the federal government's land into local agencies where they can actually have enough funding where they can actually go out and make a difference on what's going on. That's simple math. 2 + 2 is 4. Why are we not doing it? Because we don't have the legislation and the people in place to be able to help. But if you're in a local level, get involved in your local communities. I want to talk about a quick local community on my last subject before we go. I want to take a hat off out to Alex, Tuolumne County's California Freedom Alliance. This young man's 18 years old, put a whole group together. He's building on it for his local community. He has had local people who are running for local offices come in and speak, and has been trying to educate people in a local level in Tuolumne County on what's going on in their area. My hats goes off to Alex and the California Freedom Alliance in Tuolumne County for the great job and the building that he is doing. Alex, I know the midterm areas of what they are. They want to, first of all, no more controlled burnings outside. So when people pile up their leaves, pile up their stuff, clean up their yards, they want to do away with that. That doesn't sound that bad. For most people say, hey, you know what, the environment. Well, why do you live in a rural area where you're surrounded by forest or free air, fresh air? It's probably not the place to be if you are against burning outside. One of the hardest things, they're trying to do the small generators, taking those out of people's homes, saying that they're illegal to have in your home. Well, I just talked about power outages, and power outages in Tuolumne County isn't 1 day, 2 days while they fix the lines. There's weeks involved in this where actually there is no power. There's a lot of people that depend on that backup generator to actually be able to supply electricity, heat to their families, yet Tuolumne County wants to yank that away. One of the beautiful things about living in rural California is right behind me. I love you guys can see it. Sorry, let's go on this side. Right behind me that way. You guys can see my wood fireplace there. Tuolumne County wants to abolish and lack the use of all fireplaces. They do not want you to be able to burn a fire in your home. Well, that sure sounds good, doesn't it? Because our environment. We've been doing this for decades. We've been burning wood forever. I just talked about power outages where if you don't have a backup generator, that fireplace back there is the only thing that's going to warm up your house. There are people right now that can't afford electricity because the electricity bills have gone so high. Yet their source of heat is that fireplace back there. Yet they want to take that away. How about our elders who are living on a fixed income? Because PG&E has gone so high, they don't turn on a fan. They don't turn on the AC, and they can't afford to turn on the heater in the wintertime. That fireplace is the only thing keeping them warm. The fireplace might be the only way that they're able to cook their food. Because we all know, when you live in rural America, you learn how to cook on your fireplace. You learn how to cook above your wood stove when you don't have a choice, especially when the power goes out, because we've been dealing with it for years. Yeah, Tuolumne County Board of Supervisors wants to go into banding all this, banding the reason why most people live in rural America. If you're in Tuolumne County, I urge you to get a hold of Alex, get a hold of Tuolumne County's California Freedom Alliances. You can look them up on Facebook. Find out when their meeting is. Because next Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors is meeting in Tuolumne County to discuss exactly what I just talked about. This is people's livelihoods and the way that they are. I'm going to encourage everybody out there to get involved in your local politics. I believe that we, right now, while I'm making a transition, while I figure out what I'm going to do, I'm going to get more involved in my local politics. I'm going to get more involved in local county council meetings and in city meetings so I understand what is really going on. It is time that we stop letting people who are career politicians who don't have a skin in the game keep telling us how to live our lives. But it won't stop them from burning their own fireplaces. And a lot of that is right. A lot of these people that make these rules, either they don't need to because they're getting paid by the county, they're getting paid by us, the taxpayers, so they don't care. But I think about the elderly, the people with aren't in the greatest places in life that can't afford PG&E, the people that depend on that fireplace to keep them warm, the people who depend on that for even a little bit of electricity, of being able to see, right? Do you imagine not being able to burn a candle at your house when the power goes out? Because that's where we're going next. Because if you spill the candle, it might start a fire. I mean, when does the insanity stop? And when do we put our foot down and said enough is enough? For those of you guys in the Sosleyville School District area, I have great news. There's 3 spots opening up right now. So if you or anybody you know wants to do and make a difference in a child's life, contact me, send me a DM. I'll get you with the right people who are actually going to be there helping you run for school board. School board is a very important place for our children's education. And if we don't have the right people on the school board, things could go south. Can the school board make a difference? Yes, they can. They can suggest. They can help. And if you're actually thinking about getting in politics, school board, city council, county council, water board, any of those will help you in your future ventures. Because now you can actually say that you have held an elected office. I went about it the wrong way. I went straight to the top because I thought I could make a difference in the state of California. And I knew that the top layer was Gavin Newsom's seat. So I ran in the recall. I ran for Congress. The reality is I need to get my name out there. I need to be well known, and I need to be better funded to be able to run those races. I'm not saying that I'm not going to do it. What I'm saying is that this is what it takes to be able to do what I did. Had I known earlier, had somebody actually talked to me, had I even had the desire to have been a political person or in the spotlight, my suggestion to you, if these are your aspirations in life, if this is what you want to do, start small. Start with city council. Start with school board. Start with the water board, the treasury. Start yourself down low and build yourself up. It makes it a lot easier down the road to run for a bigger office like what I was trying to do. So, best thing to do at this point is replace your local representation if they support these goofy policies. Push them term limits, as well as you can start petitioning to bring a vote. We will help you get your name out there more for the recognitions, no matter. I appreciate that and thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for all of you who have shared and liked my videos over the years, who are still here listening, who are still showing your support. I can't thank you guys enough for doing all that. And we will continue to have the program on, and we will continue to educate people. But right now, get down to your local level. Start seeing what's going on there. If you're in District 13 and you supported me, please support John Duarte for District 13 Congress. And I appreciate each and every single one of you guys joining me this morning on Waking Up California with Diego Martinez and all of you guys listening on KPSF DB Radio Satellite. We will see you guys next week on Waking Up California every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Thank you guys for joining me, and we'll talk to you guys later.